Fest, Global Fintech Fest, organized by IMA along with its sister organization, Payments Council of India and Fintech Convergence Council and National Payments Corporation of India. The fest is presented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, Reserve Bank of India, and supported by Niti Aayog, Startup India, Invest India, and powered by Razorpay. Brought to you by partner Amazon Pay, WhatsApp, in association with partner Google Pay, Open Financial Technologies, digital payments partner Cash Free Payments. We are here to discuss a very crucial topic on secret moat to building a fintech unicorn. Without any further ado, let me first introduce you to our moderator, Mr. Ishaan Mittal, Managing Director, Sequoia Capital. And for the panelists, we have Mr. Mathur. He's the co-founder and CEO Razorpay. Shashank Mathur, co-founder and CTO Razorpay. I would request our audience to put on your questions on the chat box, and we will try to respond to them by the end of the session. With that, let me hand this over to Mr. Mittal. Over to you, Mr. Mittal.
Thank you so much, Vani. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here. I have Harshil and Shashank, co-founders of Razorpay. As context, I think India, as most of us know, has been at the forefront of innovation, particularly in the fintech space globally, starting from the government-led initiatives like UPI, which have literally redefined the way we pay day to day, and everybody across the world is talking about how innovative that is. To then innovative products being built out by our homegrown companies like Razorpay and many others, where again, as global investors, we are starting to see that all eyes around the world are turning to India and talking about how the innovation in India is so far ahead of its time and what can we take from it and apply to US and Europe, right? Which is quite different from how it used to be 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And of course, one of the most innovative companies in this ecosystem, and one we have at Sequoia been good partners with, is Razorpay. So super excited to have Harshil and Shashank. I'll start with the first question, which many people ask, guys. Razorpay was a small startup, say 4 to 5 years ago, few people in a market which was big but crowded, many incumbents, and today you guys are the market leader. Harshil, tell us what has enabled you to do this.
Yeah, thanks, Ishaan. Thanks for inviting on the panel. I think, when we started Razorpay, when we were asked that question a lot, right? That this is a very crowded space. Why are you getting into this? It's a commoditized market, and it's solved for. It's done. And I think that is not true even today, right? Like while payments has grown leaps and bounds in India, there's still so much potential in India that we're still in very early days of the digitization of ecosystem. And even today, when I talk to customers, when I talk to people in the industry, I see there's so much more opportunity for India to digitize so many moving aspects of money flow that nobody can ever say that we are done, right? And definitely not 5 years back, definitely not today. I think we are way far behind from being able to say that. So the reason, I think we succeeded was that on day one, I think one of the core focus areas for us was product and tech, and we truly believed that product and tech could be our true differentiator in the payments ecosystem. With everything else being where it is, the company which has the most innovation coming out of it in the ecosystem will generally be more successful. And that is something we saw globally, right? Like globally, the most successful payment companies, even in mature markets, are companies like Adyen, Stripe, Braintree, and so on and so forth, all of which built from a tech-first principle. And that is one thing that we truly believed in. So we invested a lot in ensuring that we stay ahead of the curve. We are always the first one to bring in the most innovative platforms. So, for example, when UPI was launched, Razorpay was the first payment gateway to launch support for UPI, and we saw a lot of merchants using us because they wanted support for UPI, and nobody else was providing at that point of time. Similarly, we did a lot of innovation around things like instant refunds, things like disbursements, things like launching lending and neo banking and so on. Even very recently, when RBI came up with the new subscription guidelines, we went ahead and launched Mandate HQ to enable that to happen in a more seamless fashion. So I think innovation is a journey, and constantly doing innovation takes a lot of effort and a lot of focus. But that is one thing that we have stayed true to. And I think as we scale up from here, we still believe that there's a lot more opportunity that is going to come online in the next couple of years, far more than what is already online. So from that perspective, I think there's still a lot of room. There's a lot of market yet to be captured, and I think I'm personally very excited about that.
Got it. Super interesting. I think that's an important takeaway for if any young founders listening in, that if you have a market with you and you see an opportunity, don't get bogged down by what people say. Go after that opportunity. But Harshil, you mentioned one thing, which is being product centric, innovation centric. The true answer is you were one of the first fintech companies to truly build for India. Right, before Razorpay came in, we were still in payments using many of the products that were built for foreign markets and shipped to India. But you innovated for India. For example, you guys took the lead on adopting UPI, and then many other innovations followed, as you mentioned. But at the same time, Shashank, tell us, what does it take to build an amazing innovation engine like you guys have at Razorpay? What's the secret sauce? Because everybody wants it, but there has to be something you need to do differently to get it.
India has so many opportunities, right? That I think it kind of tends to bring out the best in us in a very strong way. But like building a innovation-focused company, I think obviously goes way beyond that, right? I think first thing is just the kind of people that we hire, right? I think from day one we have been very focused on getting people who are, who believe in the mission, who want to create ground level impact, right? And who are ambitious but at the same time very humble, right? Who understand that, the challenges that we are up against are big, are tough, right? But can be solved through the DNA of experimentation, through the DNA of leveraging product and technology, as Harshil mentioned, right? And even as the years have passed, I think we have stayed very true to our core of, solving challenges through building the right products at the right technology at scale, right? And not deviating from that. I think the other thing I would say is that, as the years have passed, we have been surer of our vision and what we want to do and the impact that we want to create, right? And what that has done, that has allowed us to say no to many, many things, right? A lot of trends that, kind of keep happening year on year, despite not having any solid ground, right? And just the freedom to say no to those things have allowed us to invest in a lot of things that will actually solve customer problems and invest in a lot of experiments that we can do that nobody else in the ecosystem is doing, right? Because it kind of gives us the freedom that, hey, we don't need to worry about competition. We don't need to worry about all the things, all the new things that are shiny things that are happening. But okay, let's keep our heads down and let's focus on on the things that really matter for our customers. And there are many examples of that, right? We have been one of the very few companies which have been extremely focused on the businesses, SMEs, and B2B customers that are there, right? And we never said yes to going after consumers, even though there was a lot of talk around it. We never went after wallets, even though there was a lot of talks around it, right? But the kind of products that we built actually solved real ground level problems for our customers. And that's been, I think one of the key secrets that's helped us towards this success.
Got it. So one of the key things you mentioned, Shashank, there is people. Just attracting the people who want to build and innovate and do it the right way. But again, it's not easy to attract the right set of people, to retain them, and to have that kind of culture which fosters that innovation. How did you guys manage to do this?
Yeah, see, Shashank, go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing that is there, right? I think from day one, we always thought that, want to hire people who are driven, right? Who want to achieve things. But we also need to treat them really well, right? We would want to treat them in the same way that, if we were in their place, we would like the company to, to behave, right? And that's created a very good culture. From day one, we've always been like, look, we want to do right by the folks that we have, right? We focused a lot on wealth creation opportunities as well. Like, I think we have been one of the pioneers in terms of, like a small thing like, doing stock buyback options, right? But that kind of just talks about that, hey, like, we want all the folks in the company to be our partners and not just employees that are there, right? And the other thing I would say is that, we don't just build products, right? We also talk a lot like how we build products and try and teach everyone in the company as well as outside. That kind of helps us, create a lot of mind share that, Razorpay is the place. If you want autonomy, if you want empowerment, and if you want to do a lot of good and real work, that is there, right? And that ensures that we are attracting the right kind of people.
Got it.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, right? Like it starts from that belief that, right, like if you, that first is the domain we are in, tech is our one true differentiator. Like our major, like when people ask, what is your USP, what is a differentiator? It's primarily tech and it's primarily innovation, right? And when you want to create innovation, especially tech innovation, you need to have that culture built in, right? Like innovation doesn't happen by putting a team together of 5 people and saying that you guys go ahead and innovate, right? It happens bottoms up. So you need to create a culture where everyone feels aligned towards the vision, everyone feels empowered that they can take decisions, and then they try things and they fail and they try more things and are able to do that. And that can only happen when you have the right culture where people think of themselves as not just as employees but also owners of innovation. And that is one thing that we have focused on a lot from day one.
Got it. Got it. And that's quite visible, right? Razorpay has grown very fast, but at the same time, you guys have continued to branch out, launch Razorpay X, launch Razorpay Capital, within payments, launch newer products. One, as a young founder or a young company founder, which you guys were maybe 3-4 years ago, it will almost sound like changing wheels in a running vehicle, right? It's not easy because you're going very fast, but you want to keep making changes, keep innovating. What advice would you have for young founders who are listening in? How do you do that? Because one question we hear a lot from founders as an investor is, how do I scale up very fast without blowing up?
Yeah. So one thing, the first thing that is, I would reiterate what Shashank mentioned, and I would word it as focus. Have a very clear view of what you really want to do, right? And don't get distracted because somebody else is doing something else or something else is now like the new flavor of the month, right? So for us, it was very clear that we want to simplify financial lives for businesses in India. It started with simplifying payments. And as we did that and we kept focusing on that for businesses, we figured out that, okay, there's more to the financial world of businesses than just payments. So we expanded our vision to cover the entire financial ecosystem, but we stayed true to the customer segment that we want to build it for businesses. So as Shashank mentioned, there were a lot of trends that came in between that, hey, why don't you guys build X? Why don't you guys build Y? This is something that is getting really hot right now. There's a lot of investor interest and so on. But we were very certain that our customer base is a business and we want to simplify their lives. So, and while we expanded our vision from payments to, let's say, finance, the entire financial ecosystem with banking and lending coming together, the customer base remained the same. It's a customer base that we understood. It's a customer base that we were in the right position to solve for and nobody else. And it's a customer base that respected us as an org as well, right? So when you have that broad vision aligned, then of course change is a part of the journey, right? And startup journey typically involves going through the changes that a typical organization will grow in like 10, 15, 20 years within a span of 1 or 2 years, right? So change is part of the journey. But as long as you're straight to that vision and you have a customer base that really keeps talking to you and telling you that, hey, this is what we need, this is our core problem. And as long as you're solving for problems of those customer base, I think it's very easy to bring about that change, right? Like today, we are picking up so many new things every year, right? To do at least 5 or 6 major product launches every year. And all of those run independently, right? We don't need to get into it too significantly ourselves as founders. Simple reason is that because we have the right construct where people know this is our vision. And if you are building a product or a feature that aligns to that vision, you don't need to go and ask for permission that, hey, can I build for this? The only reason you would have to worry about that is that when you're building something outside that vision. And that is where we would have to come in and have to decide on that. But most features, most products, most innovation can happen as long as it aligns with that vision. So having that clarity on day one is very important. And that clarity could evolve, right? Like I said, we also expanded our vision over time. But having a segment that you want to serve in, having a problem that you are very clear that you are the best person to solve it, I think that is really important. Our teams have that.
Got it.
Yeah. I'll add probably that, again, on the organization culture part, right? I think since day one, we have had a very strong focus on the culture of transparency, right? We very transparently share with our people how the organization is doing, what are our challenges, what are our strengths, right? And that builds a very strong recognition in people that, and they feel part of the journey, right? And the other thing is we invest a lot in people and, expect them to act as leaders, right? So a lot of the initiatives that we do, it's not a question of like any kind of micromanagement, but also like at the same time, the people who are there, they're expected to act as founders, they're expected to act as owners and drive those things, right? And that gives us a very strong leverage to operate at scale. Even though the organization is scaled, we have been able to pursue multiple opportunities and do justice to those.
Got it. Okay, this is very profound. I think just how you've laid it out, right? So two pieces. One is just internal focus on people and culture, and then this external focus you talked about, Harshil, which is keeping the customer at the center of your decision making. Sounds great. Thank you. Shifting gears a little bit, guys. We all know you guys have become a pretty large business. As of the last round, you guys were valued at $3 billion. But looking beyond that, we have always found that founders who are building enduring businesses have an innate desire to bring change, right? We've always realized there's something more fundamental than just revenue or profits or market cap that is the motivation factor. So I'm very curious to understand, share with us what motivates you and how do you see this passion translating into, where Razorpay is in 5 years or 10 years? What wakes you up in the morning?
Yeah. So let me give like where we started with and where we are now, right? Like, so even when we got into this problem of payments, the reason we went deep into it is that payments is the very bottom of the layer problem, right? So if you think about it, like unless you have internet, you can't have things like social media, you can't have things like video conferencing that you're doing and all of those things. Like, so having easy and cheap access to internet is one of the fundamental reasons that we have all of this innovation today. Similarly, having easy and seamless access to payments is very critical to the commerce ecosystem that we are building on internet, right? So whether it's e-commerce, retail, gaming, wealth management, all the other things that we are building today, like it's very hard to build those kind of innovation till you have easy and seamless access to something like payments, right? And that was the fundamental passion for us when we started building Razorpay, that we believe that like while there was payment access in India, it was not seamless. It was not easy for a young company to get access to payments in India. And that is one thing that we solved for in last 4 or 5 years. Now, as we spent more time with these businesses that we work with, what we realized is that a typical business, especially a founder in India, spends close to 50-60% of their time just managing finances. And this includes managing payroll, managing tax payments, managing TDS, managing vendor payments, managing TDS associated with that, getting access to capital, whether it's through fundraising or through borrowing money, getting access to a credit card, and so many other things, right? And most of these things in the early days are done by the founder himself. I remember I myself used to spend like at least a day of my month just managing payroll for 20 employees before we hired the first finance person, right? Because there's so many moving angles to it. I had to use my personal credit card because no bank would give me a corporate credit card on day one, right? So there's so many different problems that a founder had to solve. And as we scaled up, we would have a 5, 10, 15 member finance team, and it will scale up as the organization scales up because each of these financial processes get really, really complex. And there are no simple tools to manage all of this. So you spend a lot of times with Excel files. You'll spend a lot of times in dealing with a banking guy. You'll call somebody up, come to your office to sign documents and stuff like that. There's so much time that is still being spent. And one of the things that what really drives us is that this fundamentally needs to change, right? The founder and the company should spend most of their time on the core product, on the core service, right? So if you're building a food tech company, right, your majority of your time, 80-90% of your time should go in how can you make food tech the best out there? How can you solve for your customers the best out there? Not in managing finances of collections, not in managing disposals to restaurants, and so on and so forth. And that is one thing that we are out to solve with Razorpay X, right? That how can we change the way banking and financial management is done by our business and bringing all on one platform. So we have, for example, we have launched payroll, and today we are the fastest growing payroll platform in the market, right? With millions of dollars of payroll being processed through our platform every month. Right? We have launched payouts and through which businesses are doing millions of dollars of disposals, actually billions of dollars of disposals through our platform every month. We have launched a corporate credit card. So basically the idea is that in the next couple of years, we want to be in a position where you start a company, you sign up with Razorpay, and we can take care of everything that you need to do from a financial perspective, right? From managing and opening a current account, to getting access to a corporate credit card, to getting access to loans when you need it, to getting access to, of course, payments, disposals, vendor payments, everything else that you need to manage the financial aspect of your business, so that you can go on and focus on your core business and your core activity and differentiate there and leave the finance aspects to us, and we'll ensure that you have the best that is out there, right? So today, like large companies like like Reliance and Tata's would have the custom built ERPs and SAPs which solve a lot of these things for them. How can we enable a small business on day one to have that strength of internal financial management right on day one without spending that much amount of time or resources into it? I think that is what really makes this exciting for us.
Yeah, I'll add maybe from a different perspective. I think as you rightly said, Ishaan, right? Like the company's valuation has increased rapidly over the past few years, and that's a great thing. And it's really good to have, right? But it's personally, it's absolutely not the motivating factor for me, right? What gets me up every day is, I think I consider myself fortunate to be in the position that we are in, and the chance that we have to create the kind of impact that we have been able to create in the past and last half decade, and hopefully what we'll do in future, right? And I think of it as a very simple equation. There are millions and millions of businesses in the country, right? Whom technology hasn't touched, or otherwise they don't know how to leverage technology, right? If we are able to digitize these businesses, we'll be able to make them way more productive towards their core, focus towards their core business that is there. And if you're able to make businesses of India way more productive, right, I think it will make India as a very competitive country on the world stage, and it'll impact the GDP of the country. It's proven that any percentage point increase in digitization and digital payments results into a significant increase in the GDP of the country as well, and it will also move closer towards the goal of being a 5 trillion economy by 2025. That is there, right? So that's the simplest equation to have. That how can we help Indian businesses become digitized, become more productive, and and I think Razorpay has a very important role to play in that aspect.
Got it. I had a follow-up question to this, that what does it like? Why does it take an Indian company to innovate for India? I want to park that, because I think the answer is in what you just said, right? I doubt anybody who runs an international global business wakes up thinking that how can I move things for the Indian economy? What can I do to make India more productive? I think that's that desire, that motivation that you guys are talking about is really special, and I'm sure that translates into the culture in terms of the passion that the team has. Tell us a little more about this vision you're painting is really grand, right? Which is that Razorpay can be an infrastructure business. It can play a role in the way Indian economy transforms and grows. But such massive visions also, we all know, are not achieved as individuals or alone, right? It's achieved with collaboration, with coordination. So talk a little about how do you see this collaboration? Who are the different stakeholders in the ecosystem, on the government side, on the bank side, in the fintech side, everywhere, who you collaborate with, should collaborate with? How do you think about this?
I see fintech is, by definition, is a very collaborative space, and that's what differentiates it from a lot of other spaces in the internet world. Like, in a lot of spaces, people try to create walled gardens and do a winner take all. I think fintech is one space where I believe like the most successful companies are generally the most collaborative. If you look at globally, like globally, I would say Visa and MasterCard are one of the most successful fintech organizations because they are very open. They connect with every bank. They connect with every fintech. They even recently started doing crypto and everything. Like they're very internally connected. Even in India, if you look at NPCI, the kind of innovation it has done and the way it has grown, it is because it's very collaborative and open, right? And in fintech, it's very hard to build in silos because there are so many moving parts, and when you're moving money around, you need to have that that openness as a platform that money can move from one platform to another seamlessly, right? And that is something that we have focused right on day one. So whether it is regulations, and regulation is something I think we are fortunate that in India we have a very progressive regulatory framework where you already have something new coming up every 3-6 months, which is driving innovation further up the curve. Whether it was something like UPI or whether it is something like changes we are seeing in the recurring mandates and subscription mandates that will bring more companies into the recurring ecosystem, right? So those kind of changes, like we are very fortunate as that the fintech ecosystem in India has so many stakeholders which are working together towards it. So right from regulators to ecosystem partners like NPCI and networks to even consumer side fintech, we have very deep collaboration with companies like Google Pay and Phone Pay and so many more, where we allow them to accept payments on our platform. And And right from that, going towards things like lending, right? So the way we do lending is that we are a product and tech player in that ecosystem, and we connect with banks and NBFCs on one side, enable them to lend to our merchants far more easily and far more smoothly than what they would be able to do direct. Similarly, when we talk about corporate credit and current account, we have bank partners on one side, which are actually the ones issuing that card or opening that account. But we are able to build the tech infrastructure to allow that to happen far more seamlessly than what would happen directly, right? So one aspect for us is that we want to ensure that we serve our businesses really well, and we create the tech and product that the businesses are exposed to on our platform is controlled by Razorpay, and we are delivering the best experience there. But that doesn't mean owning every aspect of the pie. So if the current account, for example, like there are banks and there are players in the country who are best at managing customers' money, who have the best resources to open a current account. But can we build the tech and product layers on top of it to make it far more seamless for the business to interact with? And that is what our core domain is, right? That is what that is what really differentiates us. That we are the ones who can build the best tech and product platforms out there. But other aspects of that flow, right? Whether it is where the loan originates from, or whose book is used, or where is the credit card actually issued from, those things we prefer to work with partners who do that part really well. Shashank, if you want to add anything.
I mean, covered all the things that, fintech is a very collaborative field, right? And everyone has an important role to play, and the kind of change that you want to bring about, it's not a single player job. It's heavily dependent on collaboration between all the stakeholders that are there. And at the same time, as the years have passed, right, the one change that I have noticed is that everyone now today is more open to collaboration, right? Be it the banks or the regulators or the startups that are there, they are more open to understanding each other's strengths that are there, instead of thinking that, hey, we should do everything ourselves. And I strongly suspect that that's the approach that works really well in India compared to other countries like China and all, right? And also the fact that also I think the players, the companies who do not figure out collaboration in a very strong way, I think will over time get wiped out, right? So that's more a strength of the ecosystem, and just a general trend as well that I've seen, and I really hope like it will continue growing in a very good way.
Got it. No, I agree with you. Collaboration is the strength. We are better off together, building off each other. And are you guys seeing same reciprocation from the other side? Like when you discuss with regulators, when you discuss with banks, like how open are they to collaborating?
Yeah, definitely. I think that perspective has changed a lot in last 5 years, right? Like on day one when we started Razorpay, right? Like I remember having to convince a lot of banks that why they should work with a startup, why they should work with a small company such as ours, and how much value can we unlock. And it took a lot of time to honestly go through that convincing. But today when we speak to banks, like banks have dedicated startup programs, banks have dedicated branches that are focused on startups and collaborating with startups, because they have seen, and probably because they have worked with companies such as ours and other companies who came up with the first wave of fintech, and the kind of value that they unlocked for banks and for the ecosystem at large. And then today, everyone is trying to work with the new age fintech players in the ecosystem, trying to create specific products, specific services for them, so that they can go out and win the market together. Even regulators from that perspective, like RBI has a sandbox program. I don't think anywhere in the world you'll find a regulator having a sandbox program so that people can try innovation in a limited subset, see if that innovation works, and then and allow that to become a regulation in the future, right? Like a regulatory sandbox, like those kind of innovation happening in the ecosystem is really amazing to see. And I think, and that's why I believe like India is the best place to be if you want to build fintech in the world today, if you want to build innovation for fintech in the world today, because we are already ahead of the curve, right? The way our payments rails are, the way our financial rails are is significantly ahead of West and other markets. But with the kind of collaboration that everyone in the ecosystem is focusing towards, whether it's banks, whether it's networks like NPCI, or whether it's regulators like RBI and SEBI, we are all working towards creating more collaborative ecosystems towards that. So I think India is the best place where most innovation in the future will come from, especially in fintech.
Got it. Guys, thank you so much. Love this conversation, and we are all rooting for you guys. Thanks for sharing your vision, how you have done that, and what the plans are.
Thanks a lot, Ishaan. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ishaan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on GFF and for this enlightening discussion. This session was brought to you by Razorpay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are signing off.